Hello, everybody. Jamie, would you start our slide deck on slide 1, please?
All right. Sheina and I just want to take a minute and introduce ourselves because we know that there's a lot of different grants represented here. But I'm Ashley. I've been in the EPIC grant the past 2 years and was an Aspire before that. I teach middle school social studies at Mason County Middle School. And I was really excited to be asked to go on this conference with KEDC grants. And I'll let Sheena introduce herself and then we'll get to talking about what we worked on.
All right. My name's Sheina Kegley. I am a part of the HERO grant. I teach 5th grade and 4th grade social studies and writing at Lewis County. And now let's talk about what we're going to do today. Okay, Jamie, next slide. So we have 3 objectives that we really wanted to look at. First, we wanted to share our experiences with Teach to Lead and what we did at the conference and what we brought back with us to share with you today. One of those is a peer-to-peer process where we're able to record information we're learning from our sessions, and then a way that we can share that with each other and organize it and come back to it when we need to use it for our own classrooms.
And then in doing so, we wanted to come up with a protocol that would allow us to do this kind of seamlessly without adding a lot onto the plates of, teachers because we're there with you, know exactly how much is already loaded onto what we're expected to do day to day. So we are going to also talk about this idea of share night, which we will introduce to. Within the grants later on, where you will actually take that time during that evening to upload artifacts and evidence, and share with each other what you're doing in the classroom, because we know from experience over the years that we can be each other's, best resources. And a lot of times when we have questions, so do other people. So allowing time to work together in this way, we hope will allow us to more easily, access all these wonderful things that we're learning in our sessions.
When the HERO group met for our peer-to-peer session back in September, one of the things we talked about was we do multiple sessions and sometimes we're not using it right away. And then time will pass and somebody will bring up a session like, oh my goodness, I forgot about that. So then we got to go back and hunt for that resource and try to use it in our classroom. We thought, how could we solve this? And then we discussed how when people start using it in their classroom, we're not coming back to talk about how we're using it in our classroom. Or if I teach 1st grade, what are other 1st grade teachers doing with this information? So we thought, how can we actually share? Because we're all doing great things in our classroom. How can we organize it and then give a chance for us to collaborate and share ideas? So next, let's go on and talk about our time in Buffalo. So we were asked to go to Buffalo with some of the leaders from KEDC. Wendy and Jackie were with us, and Jamie. And Ashley, you want to talk about what the Teach to Lead program or conference gets?
Well, I don't know if it's an annual thing or if it's twice a year, but the Department of Education puts on this thing for teachers from all over the country. Not every state was represented, but lots of states were represented. Um, and basically, we were all coming together with some sort of problem of practice within our organization that we could, first of all, work together in our small groups, but also branch out. We were partnered with a group of ladies from Georgia and got to help them and work with them on some issues that they were having within their school district, and share our ideas for what we wanted to do with them, and take in some feedback, and then of course share the feedback with each other. And it was just a really good way to work and see that a lot of these issues that we have are not things that are just right here, it's everywhere. And we talked with people from Georgia, we talked with people from New York, we talked with people from Nevada at one point, California, just all over the place. about these issues that we saw within education and things that we could do to make it better. So we spent a lot of time with our small group trying to figure out how we could best solve this problem of practice.
So we were assigned a critical friend that we talked to before we went to Buffalo. And then once we got to Buffalo, she worked through the whole process with us and also with the collaborating with the group from Georgia when we had to pitch what our idea was and how we would solve it and having feedback from people who are outside of what we do. Because sometimes you don't see like some of the things that you could fix because you're in the middle of doing that. So it was great to get the feedback from so many different people. So one of the things we talked about doing in Buffalo was to create slide decks with our sessions. So if you go on to the next slide. So the slide decks we're going to be creating will be added to your grant program's calendar. So over on the right-hand side, right now you don't see them, but this is where you're going to be able to find them later. So now let's go on and talk about what these slides are going to look like. So at the beginning of our sessions, this will be shared with you. There'll be a slide deck for, I'm not sure if it'll be every single session, but a lot of sessions. And we have them divided by grade bands to make it a lot easier for people to go back and find lessons that are relevant to the grade they teach, not just the grade, all of us lumped together. Because if someone's doing a lesson for high school, that's not relevant to me in 5th grade. So I'd like to hear what other 5th grade teachers are doing in their classroom with some of the information we're getting from sessions. Jamie, if you will go to slide 9. So when you start a session, if you're driving, definitely you do not want to try this, but you can come back and look at other people's sessions from the calendar so that you can see what they were able to pick up from the session. So you're going to have access to the slide deck. You'll enter and create a copy of the slide you see now. And on the left-hand side of this slide, this is the information we'd like you to try to fill out when you are in the session. When you have the opportunity to get resources, if you were in the session last night from the Federal Reserve of St. Louis, she shared so many resources. So while she's sharing, you would try to fill out the left-hand side of this. It's not meant to be an outline. You're not recording everything she says. You're just trying to grab a couple of things that you think, hey, I could use this in my classroom, and put links to it. Then underneath of that, this is the question that was already on our reflection that we do at the end of our sessions. So it's the same question, just what's 1 or 2 key points you can take away from the session. Now on the right-hand side, this is what we would come back and do during the share sessions later. So when we come together at the end of our quarter and we want to talk about what we've done in our classroom from the different sessions, you'll have some time to work during that period to finish filling out this side. You may put pictures of work samples, pictures of your students, tips that you found when you try to implement a resource. Okay, Jamie, next slide. So here's an example of a slide that I filled out. We did a session with Kelly Fisher on AI and different activities, and I really liked Padlet when she was sharing that session. Now, if you've been to any of Kelly Fisher's sessions, she shares a lot. So I kind of latched on to this one in particular. I'm like, hey, I think I can use that in my classroom. So when she shared links on the chat, I went ahead and put them on the slide because once our session's over, everything we've had on the chat is gone. So this is a great chance for us to go and add those slides. So someone else who might be driving could come to my slide and see the link and have access to it and not have to worry when they're driving. Underneath of that, I put a reflection of what I thought I could use from Kelly's session with Padlet. And then you'll notice the right-hand side of the slide is blank. Like when the session's over, I didn't do anything else with it. I am going to come back to that later once I use it in my classroom. So on the next slide, this is what it would look like after we do our share session. So I used Padlet in my classroom. I used it as an exit ticket, and we were talking about the American Revolution and causes of the American Revolution. I took a screenshot of my students' work and I had it saved on my computer. I was able just to grab it and put it here. Um, I put some links and to some things that I use, like how much does Padlet cost? Because you can get 3 Padlets for free, but if you have, you're going to use this more than once and you want to share student work, you might want to consider buying it. But if 3 Padlets is enough and you just delete it when your students use it, then you don't need to buy it. I learned through Padlet, the students show up as anonymous. So students would add comments and you couldn't see who it was because it was anonymous. So it was important to freeze the screen when you don't want them making comments. And I'm like, okay, maybe I can share someone else from this happening to them. So when I'm doing the reflection, this is what I've done in my classroom, and this is what I learned from it, and hopefully it'll help other teachers if they want to try using Padlet in their classroom. So will you go to slide 13 and Ashley will share some of her slides.
And I just made a couple for the middle grades band. I teach 7th and 8th grade. So this first slide is a completed slide from a session we did back in October with Lisa Neidick. She has been like just showering us with all these AI things to use. And as someone who was terrified of AI, this has really helped me. But if you see on the left-hand side, again, this is what I could do during the session. She always gives us the slides um, with all the links and everything on it. And since only the same people would be accessing this, we could look at it. And then the reflection post learning, I taught, there are ways that I can implement AI because I don't want to use it in a way that's not authentic and, kind of dances on that line of is this ethical or whatever. So trying to come up with ways. And one of the things that interested me most was using AI to generate questions. Because as middle school teacher, I've got kids all over their place when it comes to their ability and understanding and reading ability, that kind of thing. So being able to ask really good questions at different levels is something that I want to be better at. So using the sources that she gave us, I didn't. If you go to my reflection post implementation, you see I took some of what she had talked about, but I tried it with something else that I was already familiar with, which was quizzes, and using their AI question generator that they have built in. And something that I learned through this, that something that before would have taken me hours to complete, coming up with all these questions, I just had to go through, make sure the questions made sense, make sure the answers were correct, that kind of thing. And was a good review for the students. I'm still teaching them the content, but this was a good way to review without spending a lot of time um, a lot of my own time trying to develop it. So this was one example. The next slide was something that it was with our Kentucky writing project that we're working with in Epic, which was talk to the text, which is something I really want to try to implement when we go back in January with the kids working with DBQs. And the reason I haven't finished this one yet is because this was on November 18th and my last day in class was November 19th. I've had surgery and um, I've not been in school since then. But this gives me something I'm like, oh yeah, this is what I wanted to do, and I can go back. And up here where it says resources shared, it was more strategies. So I might list some strategies there because I'm gonna go back and watch the video because there was a lot of good things in there. But it wasn't necessarily like, here's a website to use or something like that, because it was just trying to get kids to interact with the text more. And again, the stuff on the left, these are things if you remember if you've been in the grants before, these types of questions are questions that were right in that evaluation anyway. So, while you're in that session, you could take a couple minutes and fill this part out. So it's not extra that you have to do afterward. And if Jamie can go on or, show you the rest of the slideshow, we have the other grade bands. There's high school. We, of course, have a blank one here. But after middle grades, we have the high school band. We also have special education, and we have the LMS, PE, etc. The different groups that aren't, necessarily fitting into those sections. But of course, we have throughout the grants, we have lots of folks who teach a lot of different things or, are working a school at different capacities. And so we try to include all the different aspects there. Um,
Jamie, if you'll go back to slide 6 for a second. So this is one of the sessions that we did actually last night. So Ashley mentioned that she attended a session and she hasn't used it in her classroom yet, so she hasn't filled out the right side. So that's what's happening with this one too. At the top, it says the session and the date. Normally, we wouldn't put that information at the top of your slide because it's going to be at the very beginning of a session. So we added it today because in a few minutes, we're going to ask you guys to try to do a little reflection on one of the sessions you covered this year. So we're putting our name at the top though, your grades, so other teachers can see when they're looking for teachers teaching the same grade as them. And then your email, so people can just click on it and send you a question. Like, hey, I see you use this in your classroom. I have some questions. Can you answer them? Um, I liked this session last night with the Federal Reserve because she had a lot of like QR codes. So I was able just to take a screenshot and put the QR code on my slide. So later I can come back and look up the session. Or you could copy and paste what the link was to the resources from the Federal Reserve. So I don't actually teach primary grades, but I loved what she had to share about the primary grades. And I plan on sharing this with other teachers in my building. So I wanted to show an example of different ways that you could fill out the left side of the screen with the QR codes, with links to the resources. Sometimes though, when we have sessions, they don't really give you a lot of links and resources. So that might end up being blank because there wasn't any resources. But sometimes you might have a lot of resources and you may want to list like a lot of them. So what we're hoping that if we have 50 people in a session, that I picked up on the lessons that are provided with literature, someone else might pick up on something else that she presented, and then we have a collection of slides from all the different strategies. And sometimes we miss because they share so much, and we can come back to the slide decks from the calendar and see what other people caught that you may have missed. So Ashley, I think we're ready to answer any questions people have.
does anyone have any questions just on what we've talked about so far? We've not talked about the right-hand side. We're going to talk about that, where you would type, when that comes into play in just a moment. But any questions about the left?
Before people jump in with questions, I'd point out, Ashley and Sheina, that people are certainly in the chat excited about the possibilities. So that's great.
Well, one of the things I wanted to talk about, because we really did not want to add to anything that you all are having to do. We wanted to make sure this was all included in your time that you're being, paid for. So, if you fill out the left-hand portion and, throughout your session or the last 5 minutes or so of your session, as far as I know, you're still going to have to do evaluation because that's a separate piece of data. But if you just do that one part, we've talked about having share nights every so often, maybe even quarterly, where instead of having a speaker come in, we are the speakers and we kind of just take a moment and share what we've been doing in our classes that has gone well. And during that share night, you would have time to fill in the right-hand side. So, if you've taken pictures of student work or you've recorded things or you've saved things on your computer during that share time, which from what I understand would be another session that you would be another session that you could join just like these, you're going to get paid for it and everything. You would take time during that to put your things in and then maybe talk to each other because, a lot of us, we're all teacher leaders, but I'm really bad about, I don't say my ideas out loud very often. I like to sit back and just let other people take, the show. But this would be a good way for all of us to take that leadership role and share what we've done because every time we have a session and I see, if Kevin Conforti's talking, I'm going to be listening because he does really good things in his classroom and I know he does. Janet, O'Connell talks, I'm gonna listen because she does really good things in her classroom. And that's just in the EPIC grant. But if we're with people with our grant, and some of, a lot of us know each other if we've been doing it for a while, to be, we kind of have an idea of what's going, they do good things. I want to hear from them. I want to know what they're doing so I can be like them. Um, I just think this would be a really good idea to share with each other, and we'd have it on the slide. So, if somebody's going back, I could go back and, if Jonathan Greer's working on something and he posts a thing, I could go back because I remember he talked about something and I really liked what he had to say. I could go to his slide. And if it's somebody who I don't know very well, who may be new to the grant, or, someone else who's kind of quiet and doesn't speak up a whole lot, I can be like, okay, there's that person. And I can email them from this slide to get, to have that contact, because we are going to be each other's best resources. We know that.
Ashley,
There's
let me
one.
speak to the evaluation real quick, because this is, and Wendy already put it in the chat, and we knew this was going to come up. We don't want to add anything to your plates, but the evaluation is a requirement that we have to have for U.S. Department of Ed data. But it's also the needs assessment piece that we utilize to see how each session went, how we determine if we're going to keep presenters or not. Also, the needs assessment of what you may need next as support. So, but in lieu of that, what will happen, and they're probably going to talk about this, Ashley and Sheena are doing an outstanding job. We're going to back the time back a little bit. We're not going to go a full hour and stop at 5 and go to 5:15 to do this. We're going to back it down to about 4:45, stop with the presentations, and then you all have 15 minutes for Q&A, reflection, to do this piece, and then also evaluation. So we're still going to be mindful of your schedules, your time, and what you do, because we're not wanting to add to, but we're also wanting to support and complement what you do, but make sure that you're absolutely implementing in your classrooms every day from what we're providing. So I'll mute, and Sheena, take it away. Sorry about that, but thought I need to speak about the evaluation piece.
Dr. Evans. One thing we were talking about when we were creating the slide decks was sometimes we attend sessions and we realize, once we're in the session, this may not fit what I'm doing right now, or it may not fit my content at all. So you might find from time to time that you have your ideas on the side, but you may not come back and post how you've implemented it in your classroom. Like, you want to try to implement it as much as possible, because that's why we're here. That's why we're participating in the grant program. But it's not expected 100% all the time for every session that you do. Another question that popped up in the chat was, what program or software are we using to make this in? These are all Google slide decks, and Jamie Salyer has created all of the slide decks for us. And at the beginning of a session, she'll put them in the chat so that you're able to click on it. And if you can split your screen, or if you have two screens, you could even be filling it out while you're in the session. So, but they are all on Google Slides, and she has it open where you can open it from whatever school you're from. Sometimes when I share for my own district, I hit roadblocks. We have a lot of things set up that I can't get past, but Jamie can share our sessions for us and our slide decks so that everyone can access them from whatever school you're at. All right, Jamie, if you'll add a link to the slide deck for us so that everyone else can join in. So please click on the link in the chat and open up the slide deck that you've been looking at. Scroll down and find your grade band. And if you see a group that's not represented, please let us know. We will add that into our section. We'd love to see how to improve this. This is new for us also, and there's always room for ideas from other teachers. So you're going to go down and find, in each grade band, there'll be a blank slide. I would like for you to duplicate it and then start filling out your name, your grade, your email. And then at the top, consider some of the sessions you've participated in this year. What is one that you have tried to use ideas from, or they had an idea that you really liked, a strategy or a resource, and I would like you to try to create a slide for that. Now, we'll give you a few minutes to work on it. Now, we know that you did not just do the session, so you're not going to have screenshots and links to everything. So just keep that in mind. You can list on resources. Even if you don't have a link, you could talk about what you learned about in a session, and then your reflection at the end of the session, like how could you use it in your classroom? And if you have already used it in your classroom, please start filling out the right-hand side. We'd love to hear what you've been doing in your class.
Laura, I just saw your question about art. I think when we were fixing that, it was just for all of those like related arts type classes to be in that section. So if you could create, if you want us to create a section, we probably could, or if you just want to go in that section, that would be fine too.
I have a question along those same lines. Any sections for like counselors, interventionists, things of that nature? Do you want us to go under the like, et cetera section as well?
I think an SEL section and counseling is a great idea. We just need to add it to our slide deck.
Do you want us to open this thing and kind of like go in and work on it or something?
Yes, please click on the link that Jamie shared and then find your grade band. And then underneath of each grade band is a blank slide. So please duplicate it or make a copy of it. And we'd love for you to fill out from a session you've completed this year.
So you just copy it?
You just duplicate it. It's not letting anybody do anything right now because there's so many people on this.
That was
But
the problem we didn't anticipate.
Saying it's unresponsive.
Yeah,
Normally
it's just kind of letting me
200
go through and
people.
view it.
We do have 200 people on this Zoom, so it is kind of heavy traffic. I will kind of stop in here and say that Dr. Evans and Jackie and Jamie, we all have been talking about, one thing that we do like to reward is your hard work. And so we know that Sheina and Ashley have put a lot of work in this. And someone put in the chat, is this in addition to, we know that everything you all do, we try to, reward you all not only with, praise on Twitter or X, rewarding you all, because one thing that we started the chat or the Zoom with was, what gives you energy? And several of you put, your colleagues and, somebody saying something great, nice, those kinds of things. But we also know that no one put, monetary reward, but we are going to reward you monetarily with this as well. So if you do this, for those of you that come back and you actually have completed slides, so that is both sides. Like if you complete the left side and then you go back and you look at the reflection post and the implementation, if you have 5 completed, so 5 is the magic key, on the 5 completed slides, and it says your name with 5 completed slides, we'll pay you $75 in a quarter. So that's the key magic word. If you do 5 of these and we can go back and see, and you turn those in for submission, and there are 5 completed slides. So like Christy Floyd is on there. She's on my screen. I see her right now. So if Christy goes and she completes, the reflection, the during session and the reflection implementation at the end of a quarter, and that's your invoice quarters, then you would get $75 for that. So
Hey, Wendy,
that's
I want
another
to
bonus.
speak a second here. I know everybody's kind of freaking out because you can't get in. It's okay. Again, we've got so many people on here, and Donna has put in the chat, we can't do more than 100. So what we will do, we're going to do a follow-up sessions with each individual grant. So Ashley can host some with Jackie, Sheena can host some with Wendy, and then I know that Dee had asked about doing a follow-up in our January 11th tech session. Absolutely. So don't panic if you can't get in. You're going to be okay, and then we're going to be all right. You all know what happens with technology, but we're going to support you in this work, and don't panic if you can't see what you need to see. This is just a big picture overview today. There'll be more detail, and I know, Wendy, it won't let you do anything, me neither, but it's okay. So everything is good. So everybody just kind of chill out, and we'll do follow-ups and make sure we support you in the right way. Sorry, Wendy, I didn't mean to interrupt you there, but back to you.
Well, and that's a really good point. And today was just more or less, we wanted to introduce the idea to you. This is a fantastic. I love that you all are saying we love this. It was more or less just Ashley and Sheina saying, hey, this was our idea. And you all can play around. We will send this out. I think Ashley and Sheina can send this out. And our idea is, normally, you all know, we don't always have all of our grants on one session at a time. This is just kind of a way for them to share the ideas with you all together. That way we didn't have to have, I guess 4 or 5 different Zooms. But we will do this. We will share this out. And like Dr. Evans said, normally, we won't have all of our grants in one slide deck at the same time. So this will never be an issue from here on out. So no worries. Ashley, Sheina, I'll toss it back to you all if you all want to follow up. I know they can't play in it necessarily, but we won't ever have this issue because there won't be so many of us on one slide deck at the same time.
And I know a lot of people I've been trying to keep up with the chat. A lot of people, we are fine having one for the arts and having one, we were just trying to do those basic divisions. So it's not like it's set in stone. We can have one for the arts, so no worries. But we're trying to get it set up so you can say, oh, I can look for my place and it'll be there. And
So
depending on what grant you're in, you teach different things anyway. So
please comment in the chat if you would like something added on one of the grade bands that you didn't see. Like we heard about art, we heard about SEL and counseling. So if you have another idea, please share. We'd love to hear.
I love the idea of them presenting this at our tech conference in January. That's a fantastic idea. Ed Tech conference. And that opens the door for others. While all 200 of you are on here, we do have presentations, and that link, I can drop that. Jamie can drop that in the chat. We need presenters for our Ed Tech conference on January the 6th. And it's very simple. You can do just like what they're doing and present wonderful, fabulous ideas in front of all of your colleagues on January the 6th, Saturday, 9 to 12.
Would you want Ashley and I to do, like, I could do the hero grant, Ashley could do hers, and what we were planning on doing tonight, we could do with a smaller group.
Yeah, that's what I meant with the follow-up with
fantastic.
per each grant with you guys, so we wouldn't have so many trying to get into the document. You do have a question from Jennifer Moody there about going back and doing reflections on previous trainings, or just start from here on out. So
we were going to reflect on previous trainings tonight. We didn't anticipate the issue of having so many people, but thank you guys for joining us. So when we come back if we do this during Ed Tech, that will be a great time to reflect on what we've done so far this year, because we've had some great sessions and I'd love to hear what other people are doing in their classroom. So, but as far as having a slide deck for every single session we've covered so far, that we hadn't planned on doing. That's something we're going to be moving forward with.
Oh, Amy, I had the date wrong. Okay, thank you. Sorry. Last year was probably the 6th.
I see Crystal Daniels had a suggestion, because sometimes we're going to have we'll have more big sessions with a lot of people, but maybe having a hero slide deck and then achieve slide deck so that you can interact with people in your session without overloading the slide deck, so that we can move forward with it. Because we do sometimes join together and we have 100+ people in a session. So that is a great idea, Crystal. Thank you.
You may have already said this, but how do I share anything I've completed back into the slide deck? Or do I need to do that?
When you're looking at the slide deck, on the left-hand side of the slide deck is notes that you're taking during the session or after the session with your ideas from the session. On the right-hand side, that's where you're going to share what you've done in your classroom. So you could put photographs, you could take You could scan in things and add pictures of student work samples. You could just type some notes about what you've been using in your classroom on the slide deck. So when we come back in January and you do your first January session, we will share a slide deck link with everybody in that session at the beginning. So you can open it up, but you're also going to be able to go to the calendar for your grant and open the slide deck. And then you will just duplicate one of the blank copies and create your own based on that session.
So the one that I made a copy of just now and I've completed the left side, I can just use that at another time.
You can come after you've used it in your classroom. We're going to add tonight's slide deck to the calendar so that you can
okay.
access it.
Okay. I know I've been in a lot of tech sessions, but I'm one of those people that I got to look at it and then try it and then, you know what I mean? Play around with it.
Did you duplicate the slide or did you make a copy of the whole deck?
I made a copy. I should have
You
duplicated
should
it,
have
right?
duplicated the slide. I think that's where you're getting confused because if you
Okay.
duplicate the slide, it stays on that same slide deck.
Gotcha.
But if you made it in a new slide deck, if you duplicated the whole, like you copied the whole slide deck, just copy it and then paste it into the shared slide deck that we're using.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I think us having like a copy of that slide would be helpful for those that are traveling and can't like click on the links every time, but to have a master slide that we can just do ourselves and then pop in, to the other deck later.
I like that idea. So you could go onto the slide deck that we have tonight, and if you want like a physical copy printed, so in case you're ever in your car or you're not going to be online with us, where you could type it. So I like that idea.
It also, just like a regular thing, it might be like a cool idea if you are going to present at like the tech conference. If you all went towards like the end of the day, then you could just have people do it for a session they saw that day already. And they would be like right in time.
That's awesome.
I just want to make sure I'm understanding right because I came in a few minutes late there. So after every session, we will make a slide to go with that session, and then later, once we implement it, we'll go back and do the reflection portion. And we need 5 that are completed with the initial stuff plus the reflection to do the $75. Is that right?
Again, you don't just like anything in the grant, nothing is required. It's a pick and choose. You can choose to do the 5 for the $75. You don't have to, but we would like for everybody to do it, but it's up to you. You don't have to, but it's a wonderful way to collaborate. Just like these ladies said, it's a wonderful way for everybody to see, hey, oh, Rebecca got that. I didn't realize I missed that. Or this is how she's using it in her classroom. And Serenity's like, I would have never thought of that. So it's a wonderful way for everybody to see, that's fantastic. She took that from this lesson and she regenerated it. And this is what she's doing. This is how she's using it. So it's a fun way for you all to see what you're doing in your classrooms and what you took from one lesson and how you're using it. And then, oh, you're doing that. It's great. You're implementing it. And then we're paying you $75 because of things you're already doing in your classroom. So you can do 5 that way. And we're going to pay you as a little incentive, a little bonus. Some people may say this is fantastic. I'm going to do, because we looked at on average, most of our grants in a quarter, you have about 30 Cadre sessions, which is crazy. So we're saying, hey, out of those 30, if you take 5 and you're truly implementing them, which is amazing. Some of you may say, I'm going to not stop at 5. I'm going to do 10, or, I really like this. It's a way for me to truly see what I'm implementing from the grant. So you don't have to, but we'd really like it.
And it's also a way for you all to showcase the outstanding best practices that you all have in your classrooms. And again, it's from what we may provide from via grants, which is what that's our why and our best practice in your classroom. And some of y'all already have that. All of you do. We've seen that. But this is another opportunity for you to take that, take it to the next step, but also get some feedback from some co-leaders across all grants, and just take a look and say, how can we improve the practices? Again, it's for your students, but we also want you all to go grow professionally. This is a way that you all can also do that. But like Wendy said, nothing is required. This is just a opportunity for you all to continuous improvement. So
And if we see those great things, like if Jackie looks in throughout her slides, and we will be looking at these slides, like that's one thing that we do, just like your reflections. If Jackie sees, oh my goodness, Deanna's doing this, look at this. That's one thing that we may spotlight. We may start really pulling those out and spotlighting. She's like, Deanna's doing this in her classroom. We may do a newsletter or a feature article on you. And I was like, oh my goodness, Amelia's doing this in her classroom. So that's one way that we can really, because we know that's kind of a teacher's love language. So, when you get showcased, that's one way that we may really start to showcase you as well.
Sheina or Ashley, do you all want to answer Crystal's question there about the left hand side?
I think just to kind of go off of what Wendy was saying, this whole thing is not something that is, you're still going to get paid when you do your regular session and the evaluation at the end. If you want that $75, 5 of these. So the left side and the right side, in order to be included in that $75, is what you need to have done. So it's not an issue of, well, you have to do this side or you have to do that. It's just, if you want to be a part of that, it is helpful to the grant. I think our peers will really do well by seeing how we're using things in the classroom. But in my grant, I'm in Epic. We've been listening to these great things with the FDR Presidential Library, and I don't teach anything in the 20th century. So I'm just learning a lot from it. And a lot of it's not stuff that I'm going to be using in my classroom. So I'm not necessarily going to have things that I can use from everything, but then we're going to get to the pedagogy and the technology and the SEL, and that's all stuff that I can use. So when I'm able to, I'm going to fill out these slides for it. But still, whenever I do a session, I'm going to fill out the evaluation because that's how I get that payment for that session. I think that answers it.
And Mary Beth, you're exactly right. This is something new and something different that we're implementing via KEDC grant. So everybody, again, take a deep breath. It'll all be okay. You're going to have opportunities to learn and grow and kind of get in the mode of this. We're not expecting you to do this tomorrow. When we'll continually roll this out slowly to you. And it'll become second nature after we do that. So just everybody take a deep breath. It'll all be okay. So Ashley and Sheina, you all have done a fantastic job. Anyway, I know everybody else agrees on here. Debbie's clapping hands and things like that, but just an outstanding job. And they represented you all so well in DC and spoke as teacher leaders and in front of their peers, and just an outstanding job. So anyway,
Can I share one more thing, Dr.
oh,
Evans?
absolutely.
Okay, when we went to Buffalo and we started talking about the slide decks, it made me rethink about how am I recording what my ideas from the session. So last year was my first year in Hero Grant, and I had a notebook and I would record everything in the notebook. But then I learned that my notebook sometimes was at school when I was at home trying to do a session. So then I started typing my notes. So after we went to Buffalo, I took the slide that we designed in Buffalo and just started taking notes from sessions. So I wasn't really adding something new. I just replaced how I was recording my notes. But then I also realized I was recording everything from the session. Like if someone presented, like last night, there were probably 15 different things she presented. I was like, oh, I really want to try this. So we don't want you to record every single thing from every session. Just pick 1 or 2 things that you're like, I think I can use this. This is what I'm going to pull from this session. And then other people who are doing slides, they're going to be pulling some of those other ideas. So if you want to come back to them later, the slide decks will give you a place to find those ideas. Because after the sessions are over, sometimes I forget, what have we covered so far? And I'm hoping by implementing the slides that I can find ideas from other teachers, things that I might have missed when we were doing a session. So instead of it being new work, I just replace something I was already doing.
And also, I know Dr. Evans said this has been really overwhelming because of technology, doing what technology sometimes does. But if they don't, if they're okay with us leading sessions for the thing in January, you know, where we can be in smaller groups and work on this, I think it won't be as overwhelming as it's appearing to be, because we've tried to make sure it all seamlessly fits in to what, you know, we know, because we're right there with you. It's not like, you know, we don't know what you're dealing with every day, because we definitely are dealing with the same things. But I think if we can get in smaller groups and work on this, it'll be fine. And just remember, it's just something new, and it's a way for us to connect to each other, which will benefit our students, and it will be worth it in the end. It's just, you know, we'll have to figure it out as we go with parts of it.
So one question I do have to ask is, are we like looking at your all's or our past sessions, and then we're sharing how we use that in our classrooms? Is that what you're wanting on the slides?
The slides are going to show, we're not going back to do any sessions we've done before starting in January. Tonight, we were reflecting on this semester so that we could have a chance to try to fill out the slides, but we didn't anticipate the program locking up because we had so many users. So you really don't need to worry about reflecting on slides you've done so far, or sessions you've done. So during your next session in January, we'll add a slide deck to the chat, and then you will open that slide deck, duplicate one slide, not the entire slide deck, and then make that your own. Add your name and your email. And as you watch the session, if you find a resource you want to try to use, start filling out the left-hand side of it. And then during our share sessions later on, you can come back and add how you've implemented it in your classroom.
So you're kind of doing that, but it's for future reference.
It's going to be something we're doing in the future. We only wanted to try tonight to give everyone the chance to reflect on what they've done so far. Like, I wish we could have started it earlier so that you could share what you have done in your classroom. But no, don't worry about making a slide for what you've covered September up until now.
So for example, if you were teaching social studies and you were talking about, you know, Lincoln's goals, and I was relating that to goals in my art class, and I liked how you did that, and then I shared on the slide how I used your information off of the session and how students could plan short-term goals, long-term goals, and immediate goals. You know, how government kind of does that and stuff too. You know, okay, that's kind of what I wanted to clear up. Instead of typing and trying to find it, just talking to people, you know, there. Okay, good.
And then what when you share what you used in your classroom, that's going to be available on the calendar for other people to go and look at. Your email's there so they can email you questions. And then when we have the share session, that's the opportunity for you to share out your slide and something that you've been excited to use in your classroom.
And I really like the idea that Laura just shared about reflecting on past sessions. Maybe we could create a slide deck within each grant so that people could go back and do that reflection. That way it's there. Because sometimes we just really have cool things we want to share. Again, nothing of it would be mandatory of it, but just to give people that opportunity, just to, you know, and then that might be something, if we wanted to open that up, we could share that when we talk about everything in January. So
especially after, once we get started, we try it, see how it works, work out any of the kinks that might be there.
Well, ladies, thank you all so much. This has been fantastic. You all can see why why we call you all teacher leaders, because you all are truly leading the nation in everything. I will tell you that Jackie can attest to this. When we took these two to the U.S. Department of Ed conference to the Teach to Lead, they stood out above the crowd, and you can see why. They are amazing. So thank you, Ashley. Thank you, Sheina. This idea truly, I think, will, you all will see, it will change our practices, and we hope it will yours as well. So that's what it's all about. You all will get wonderful ideas from each other. And we can't wait to start this in January. We've put the reflection, our evaluation in the chat. And we also loaded the EdTech presenter application. So that's in the chat as well. Thank you all for being with us. This was a great, I think we had 205 with us tonight. So this is a wonderful. And we didn't put a lot on there. So thank you all so much. If you all need anything, we'll stay on for a bit. But again, Ashley, Sheina, thank you all for being rock stars. And make sure that you all tweet about this amazing session. So thanks so much. Have a great evening.
I just now realized that my camera was like this. Okay, I looked up and I'm like, oh gosh, where am I? Okay, I had it. Sorry.
That's all right, Dean. That's the way Wendy always wants my camera like that. So
I mean, I'm like, I just looked up and I thought, why is it black? And I've been in video settings trying to figure it out. And then, no.
Dean, show them your costume you have on today.
Oh, I'm an elf. I have a hat too. I'll show you the hat.
Cutest little elf ever.
Well,
Are you an angry elf?
I'm call me elf one more time. Call me elf one more time. No, I don't know where the hat is. I've been running around like an elf with its head cut off.
Girls, I saw you all trying to jumpstart a car after school, and there was two elves looking under the hood, and I tried so hard to get a picture before you walked away so I could post it in the group and say, these two elves think they can fix cars now.
Elves hard at work.
Santa's workshop.
Yeah. Santa's workshop. Yeah. Okay.
Or how many elves does it take to jumpstart a car?
Yeah.
Dean and I thought it would be funny. She sent me a link a couple of weeks ago and said, hey, order this elf costume, we'll match. So me and her were elves today. We had
I thought she was Ralphie with the bunny costume on.
Yeah.
All I could see was the pink.
There's the whole shebang anyway.
Oh goodness.
Next year, that's what I'll dress up as is Ralphie.
Yeah.
A letters training now I've got to hop on to.
You got this thing. You got it.
Mary Beth, I said that I put the evaluation in the chat and then also the EdTech presenter conference in the chat. So those two things were in the chat.